first I was bewildered at the thought of light, but slowly it made sense.
That taught me how to read.
I've dedicated my life to light, and light has dedicated its life to me.
Light, as we perceive it, is electromagnetic radiation, which in turn is energy carried through space by a series of wave-like oscillations. Factors including the speed, a constant c, frequency, and wavelength determine the type of each wave in the EMR spectrum. Apart from visible light, there are many different types of EMR, such as a German physicist, Maxwell Planck, proposed that EMR is only emitted in tiny packets of energy, called photons. When electrons are excited and energized, they jump up energy levels. As they fall back down, they emit specific amounts of energy called quanta. Planck had further suggested that the energy of radiation, E, is proportional to the frequency, nu, and thus led to the formation of this formula, E equals h nu. The h stands for Planck's constant, which is 6.62 times 10 to the negative 34 joules times seconds over photon. Einstein later confirmed this hypothesis, which led to the creation of this fundamental law for electromagnetic radiation. For example, our own sun releases numerous amounts of EMRs every second in the form of heat, visible light, and even other more harmful forms of EMR, such as UV rays and infrared. As hydrogen is converted to helium, energy from the breaking of bonds is released in those forms.
A light year is how far light travels at 3 times 10 to the 8 meters per second in a year. From the sun, it takes around 8 minutes for the light to reach our Earth. So, if the sun were to explode suddenly, we would not feel nor see the effects for 8 minutes. First, there is an influx of light as the sun expands into a red giant star. Then slowly, the light would dim to nothing as it collapses into a white dwarf. Likewise, many stars that we see today could have burnt out hundreds of millions of years ago. This would mean that that particular star would be 100 million light years away. The star would very well cease to exist in this frame of time.
According to de Broglie, light has a particle-wave duality. It acts as both a wave and a particle. Since we can categorize light as a particle, it in turn is also affected by gravity. This was discovered from a comet passing Jupiter. Its tail was bent by Jupiter's massive gravitational force. A further example. When a star turns into a black hole, the mass becomes so dense that the intense gravity allows nothing, not even light, to escape. Though there is a slight means of escape. As the Schwarzschild radius decreases in size, the conical region of escape from the poles, north and south, becomes smaller and smaller. When the star becomes a black hole, the conic region becomes too small for the light to escape, and in turn, the light loses all of its energy.
What if we were to escape the black hole going faster than the speed of light? As one approaches the speed of light, time dilates, or rather slows down.
Wait a minute, this is all wrong. In fact, the people moving at the speed of light wouldn't age so quickly. Rather, everyone around them would. Rewind. At the speed of light, the nuclear forces that hold the atoms of our molecules in place would be overpowered, and therefore our atoms would separate at a rate greater than our eyes could even detect, and likewise we would cease to exist. According to Einstein, large bodies of mass like our Earth and our Sun warp spacetime. Some scientists theorize that time is like rivers, spanning in different layers from the surface of a planet or star to the outskirts of space, thinking that time is affected by gravity, moving faster in zero gravity and slower in gravity. Or does time tick like a clock? It has been theorized that matter is unaffected by minuscule increments of time, and that time is made up of series of intervals, each 10 to the negative 45 seconds. If our dimension were to reside on one interval, we would be unaffected by another dimension that could be on the other interval, thus living in the same space but never knowing it.
Yo, I got some shit going on. Life was just an EMO that we saw. A million different frequencies with a King Kong. Life was unchangeable as we saw before. For life is both a wave and a particle. Ow!
Light is affected by gravity, which means it can be controlled by large bodies. The light we see in our eyes could be what we're seeing, or it could be from the past, not being.
Although the light runs freely, it's trapped by the gravity caused by area of concentrated mass, concentrated mass, yeah.
Subject to the physical laws that lie within our path. And so when the light crosses its cathode, extinguishing the black. In the black.
We can theorize that time itself is subject to these laws. Time as a dimension could be flawed, although we may conjecture as to what light is. It is simply theorized.
Theorized as it exists. It may be like a river flowing through the space, or maybe like a second-hand ticket, steady pace. Although what's important
Is
the key to our existence, the future and the past.
Although you cannot see it, taste it, feel it, smell it now, it is all around you.
What's around us?
What's around us?
What's around us?
Oh yeah, the
I've dedicated my life to light, and life has dedicated its light to me.
At first I was bewildered at the thought of light.
Wrong meatball.
Okay, wait.
You gotta like get it.
You're an idiot.